Hello again, many thanks for choosing us. The Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice, CHRAJ, says it has received an official complaint from Tiger IPI and private investigator Aremeyaw on a conflict of interest situation involving the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta and former Minister of State Charles Edubwain. Already, Mr. Edubwain has been dismissed for alleged influence peddling and using the name of the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, to receive bribes from investigators in an investigative piece by Anas. He has denied the allegations but says he'll cooperate with state investigative bodies to prove his innocence. CHRAJ Commissioner Joseph Whittal explained to my colleague Mamiesi Thompson that the initial assessment of the petition has begun to establish the merit or otherwise of the petition.
I can confirm that 2 days ago, the Commission received a complaint from Tiger IPI under the name of Aremeyaw, alleging conflict of interest of the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta and the former Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Mr. Charles Edubwain, in respect of companies that they have. And the allegations are that there is conflict of interest in terms of their official duties as public officers and the companies in which they have interests in terms of government bonds. And so the case is going through the standard process of assessment. And in order to make sure that it meets the procedural requirements under the Commission's regulations, as well as whether it is really within the mandate of the Commission. Based on that, we will then decide what next steps to take, whether to investigate, or if we think it is not within, then we will decline.
Right. And this process you're talking about, usually how long does it take for you to make a decision?
No, that one is more of an internal, it doesn't require investigation. It's more of the allegations made consistent with the laws of the country and the laws against which those allegations are said to be affecting. Is there a matter that should concern the Commission to investigate? And then procedurally, has the complaint met all the standards of a complaint within the constitutional instrument regulating the complaints, the receiving of complaints, and the investigations of complaints? And of course, whether it's within the mandates of the Commission. All these must be done before we can proceed with a decision on whether to investigate or not.
So you had that, the Commissioner of CHRAJ, Joseph Whittal, confirming to Joy News that indeed a petition has been filed by Tiger IPI and Aremeyaw. We'll bring you more on this later. But let's return to our top story, which is the petition filed by Tiger IPI and Aremeyaw, citing the Finance Minister and the former Minister of State Charles Edubwain for issues involving conflict of interest at CHRAJ. We've been joined by Citizens Movement's co-chairperson, Adam Senanu, via phone. Thank you very much, Mr. Senanu, for your time here on Joy News Prime. And so a few years ago, we saw Broja Jemfi file a similar case of conflict of interest against the Finance Minister. That was involving the issue of the $2.25 billion bond. Now, it is not very clear what the allegations are against the Finance Minister, except that we know that the former Minister of State, Charles Edubwain, has been cited for influence peddling. Your initial take on this, the turn of events and this petition filed?
Well, it's very likely that Tiger Eye had other rushes. You know, when they're doing these video clips, they have rushes they put together.
Right.
maybe for strategic reasons, the bits that have the evidence that would pin down what the minister has done may not have been put in the Galamsey documentary. So I'm quite clear in my mind that Tiger Eye must have something substantive they have submitted. It's up to CHRAJ to take a look at it. And in the context of Article 284, which says that you should even put yourself in a potential conflict of interest position. So if they can establish any linkage with a company that has been on the bond market, that has had to work with the government and the Ministry of Finance, to which these parties have an interest, even to the extent of beneficial ownership, that would make a conclusive case. So it's early days yet, but it'll be interesting to find out what exactly they had as evidence and which they have submitted to CHRAJ.
But isn't it also interesting that we have a case already before the special prosecutor involving the same man, at least Charles Dubois, and then another petition filed at CHRAJ. For you, an anti-corruption watcher, do you envisage some challenges going forward as we run these investigations?
Not at all. I mean, it's exciting for us to watch democracy at work. In other jurisdictions, I remember at one point, Trump had 18 different agencies of the U.S. investigating him, as many as 18. The multiplicity actually gives a lot more credence in terms of the different angles people come from. So it could be criminal, it could be civil. In this case, it relates to human rights and administrative justice. Let me point out that we're very careful when we're crafting the law for the special prosecutor that it would not overlap with the mandate of CHRAJ. The CHRAJ is exclusively responsible for administrative justice and issues of conflict of interest, which the special prosecutor will not be looking into in respect of what the president. So I don't anticipate any overlaps in terms of the conclusions. I think this is good. And I commend Tiger Eye for going beyond the investigative piece to putting it before CHRAJ for some resolutions in this matter.
And whilst we commend Tiger Eye PI for the work that they have done, in the interest of the fight against, corruption and the public spirit, would you think that it would be prudent for ANAS to share the evidence, as it were, in order to get allies like yourself who are interested in anti-corruption and good governance, in order for the public to also probe the issues?
I mean, trust me, I would love to have known it yesterday. But knowing the way things happen in Ghana, I'm quite sure that it's the best interest of all of us that this got quietly to CHRAJ. They are able to take an informed position, and then before it comes out. Otherwise, people may be very quick to cover their trails and come up with other hurdles and throw a spanner into the works. So, yes, I'm sure all of us will be excited. I'm hoping in the next 2-3 weeks, we'll all get to know exactly what they have submitted to CHRAJ in this matter. Because as you know, the documentary didn't have anything to do with the minister. So it's really curious for all of us. But knowing the context of ANAS himself and the team, they must have a legal position that they are clear on with respect to Article 284, which they are expecting that CHRAJ can act on. So, yeah, not prudent at the moment, but prudent in the next few weeks.
And just finally, the issues of conflict of interest also played out at a special committee put together by the Speaker to probe the issues raised by the minority in their censure motion. If what played out is anything to consider, do you still think that there's grounds for the finance minister to be cited for any situation of a conflict of interest?
Well, yes. I mean, yes, a man can say that I don't have any interest elsewhere. But one could then eventually find some evidence that shows that, as a matter of fact, the person still did have an interest or had somebody in place standing stead for them, and therefore there's beneficial ownership. They are the actual owners, but they put somebody else there.
Right.
So we cannot, at the moment, envisage that there's a clear slate for the minister. And as you'd imagine, before Tiger Eye's thing about the Minister of State, one would not have even imagined that something like that would happen and be caught on tape. I mean, I would not have thought it was possible. So let's wait till it plays out, and I'm sure all of us and Ghana will be the better for it.
Adam Senanu, thank you very much indeed for your time. And that's a co-chairman of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Let's do